What's up, everybody? Tom Pelissero here at Ford Field shortly after the Vikings find a way to lose another game to the Detroit Lions, this time overcoming 21-point deficits. Joe Webb comes into the game to replace Christian Ponder. They managed to drive to the Lions' 1-yard line, only to have Webb end up getting stripped when the Lions get penetration, throwing off the timing of an immediate type of play. It's supposed to be a fade to Kyle Rudolph. The ball comes out, gets kicked about 60 yards down the field, and they lose. It's the sort of game that only this team can find ways to lose like this, to perpetually, almost every week, find ways to be in games at the end and just not win any of them. In this case, I think there are some positives that you can take out of this game in terms of the way the guys continue to compete, in terms of the way that the defense actually, for once, seemed to get better in the second half. I want to go back to one of the decisions that was made about 10 a.m. today, and that was the decision to start Christian Ponder in this game. In my opinion, it was a mistake, and it is very easy to say that in hindsight, but what we saw on the field today was a guy who very clearly had not gone through the week of work. That's not to excuse the mistakes that Christian Ponder made. 4 turnovers, 3 of them pretty bad interceptions. The last one, a really bad one, throwing the ball back across his body on a throw that normally he probably wouldn't make. He'd throw out of bounds or scramble. That was evidence that maybe the hip was stiffening up on him. Maybe he didn't trust himself physically. And that's an indictment on one level of the Vikings for putting him out there. But even setting that aside for a second, there was no rhythm and timing in the offense. It looked like a group that had Joe Webb at quarterback and not Christian Ponder on Wednesday and Thursday, most of Friday, most of Saturday, and that's exactly what it had been. It's one thing to allow a veteran quarterback who has a lot of experience playing the game and has seen defenses before and has seen schemes and knows a team's personnel, knows all those sorts of things, and has just been through enough game plans to be able to get up to speed, use those mental reps to be able to go out and perform on Sunday. With a rookie quarterback who made only his 7th start of his career today, it's just a tough spot to put him in. I think that we saw some of the evidence of that. I think that we saw some of the throws that he was making. He was telegraphing a lot of routes. He wasn't coming off of his first read, threw a couple of bad passes into traffic, just an easy out route like the one to Greg Camarillo that he ends up throwing to the inside shoulder instead of the outside shoulder. It's an easy interception for the Lions. Those sorts of mistakes, those are tough. And now what you ended up with was a situation where you had to bench Christian Ponder because of performance as well as his health, but mainly because he wasn't playing effectively. There is no quarterback controversy, not within the Vikings organization. They don't view Joe Webb as being a long-term starting caliber NFL quarterback. Christian Ponder is the guy, and he will continue to be the guy. But you've now planted the seed, and people have seen what Joe Webb can do and the things that he is capable of. On some level, that could be a positive for the Vikings because maybe they'll finally now figure out some way to get Joe Webb involved in the offense on a week-to-week basis because he does have such a unique skill set. But you've also made people look at him and then look at the mistakes that Christian Ponder's making, and you're going to have people who don't necessarily understand the long-term thinking that goes into a football operation saying, why doesn't Webb just be the quarterback? And you've got Christian Ponder standing on the sideline knowing that he's been benched, which is a tough thing. I think that Ponder's a relatively unflappable guy, but I have heard that he's been very down after some of his turnover-prone losses. You want him to get these mistakes out of his system early on. You want him to make these mistakes so he won't make them in 2012 and 2013 and beyond. This was a really tough one to overcome. 2 weeks in a row, he's made a bunch of turnovers. Not just one, but multiple turnovers that have been really, really costly for the team in the game. The Vikings rally all the way back, but they come up short. And as he said, he gave him 17 points in the first half. You end up losing by 6. He knows where some of that blame lies. And that's not to put it entirely on Ponder. I think ultimately it does come back to the coaching staff. I understand why you want Christian Ponder out there. You want to continue to see his development in a lost season. You want to have something to grasp onto. This is a really tough spot for Christian Ponder to be in. He played poorly. You can't put all that on the preparation, but can you put some of it on the preparation? Absolutely. And I think that in hindsight, again, I'm not saying that I necessarily thought that this was the case going into the game, but in hindsight, it's pretty obvious that they made the wrong choice. I am headed out to try to make a flight at the Detroit airport right now, back at Winter Park, and breaking down the tape tomorrow. See you.